Hey, what year were your parents born?
Dad was born in 1889 and Mom was born in 1890.
Oh,
One,
okay.
one year.
Okay. All right. What were their names?
Benjamin Harrison Collins and Alma Samantha James.
Alma Samantha James.
Yes.
Okay. How many kids did they have?
13, and I was the 13th. My twin sister, Charlene, was the 12th. She died when we were 7 months old.
Oh, so it wasn't at birth. I thought she died at birth. What'd she die of?
I asked Mom that, and she said, "Oh, we killed that baby." What she meant was that she had some condition where she kept throwing up water, and Mom and Dad kept giving her water, and eventually she died.
Oh,
There was no doctor anywhere near where we lived.
yeah. Huh. Had 13 kids. How far apart were they in years? I mean, what?
My oldest sister was married and had a girl 9 months old when we were born. We being the results of celebration, probably. And Mom had a boy, the second child, and he was a straight A student and a star athlete and drove the school bus as well as went to high school. He took spinal meningitis. 4 days later, he died. And that was 2 weeks before my twin sister and I were born. And Mom was unable to go to his funeral.
Because she was having you.
Yeah. So beyond that, the next one was a girl, Modell. They were about 1 or 2 years apart until they got down to Stanley, who was the one right above me and Charlene. And that was almost 4 years. So I asked Dad, looking at the chronology of my siblings, I asked Dad, what happened? He said, "You were an accident." Mom said, "Oh, Ben, they were all accidents." So it was either 1 year or 2 years apart. I think that's the most space between them.
Then they tried to tape her off, and they ended up having 3 more.
Yeah. Then Dad later, when I was playing baseball as a youngster, he said, "That's why we had you. I wanted 9 boys so I'd have a baseball team." Dad loved baseball. He would.
Oh, he did. I didn't know that.
My brother Leighton and I were fishing one day on the creek down below where we lived, and I saw a wasp nest up in the tree. I picked up a rock. I was left-handed, and I threw it left-handed at the wasp nest and missed. And Leighton said, "You quit that." And I said, "It's just a wasp nest." He said, "I don't mean that. You quit throwing left-handed. Throw right-handed." And I said, "Why?" He said, "I want you to be a catcher, and you have to throw right-handed to be a catcher on the baseball team." So I picked up a rock with my right hand and I threw it, and darn me if I didn't hit the wasp nest. And from then on, I threw right-handed, and that was fortunate for me because I got a baseball scholarship to college, and I made money during the summer playing semi-pro ball. Yeah, and my oldest living brother, the one that was the oldest living that I knew, was Eugene. He was the 4th of the children. He was very ambidextrous, and he played Army baseball, and he was a pitcher, and one day he pitched a doubleheader, one right-handed and one left-handed, and won them both.
I'll be darned. Uncle Eugene. Loved Uncle Eugene.
Yeah.
He used to take care of us.
The last time I remember seeing him, Eugene, do you know who I am? And he said, well, I guess you're a Collins. I said, yeah, I'm Yuldine. He said, you've got a twin sister named Charlene. Where is she?
Oh my. Oh my.
And I said, unfortunately, Eugene, she died when we were infants. Oh, he said. So his mind was sharp in some ways very bad.
Right. So it started out with Leona was the oldest, and then Modell?
BH, the one that died, he was second. Then Modell, then Eugene, then Alton, Boyce, Leighton, Geneva, Darwin, Herbert, Stanley, Charlene, and Yuldine.
Okay.
Charlene and I being the twins. And the odd thing about all this is that Mom, she had all those kids. She fed us all. She woke up first in the mornings, lit the fires in the stoves, cooked breakfast, and woke everybody else up. Then we got up. We did a very minor washing of our hands and face, and then we ate breakfast and went to work, went to the fields. Mom would stay back at the house, clean up the dishes, prepare lunch for cooking, but she wouldn't cook it. She'd get it ready to cook, and then she would come to the fields and work with us until 11 o'clock. Then she would go back to the house and cook lunch. We'd come in and eat, and she'd do the same thing for supper. Stay, do the dishes, get supper ready for cooking. Then she'd come to the fields and work until about sundown.
Yeah.
And she lived to be 101 years old minus 1 week.
Gosh. Had all those kids, did all that work, took care of all them.
Dad insisted that all the kids be educated. So my older siblings grew up when the Dust Bowl days occurred in the United States and the Great Depression. And so they had to not only go to school, but they had to work. When they got home, they had to do things. And on the weekend, there was no such thing as a holy day. Saturday was work and Sunday was work. And we did that until I was about half grown. And Dad quit working. He had asthma so bad he couldn't do it anymore. So he quit farming and just raised a few cattle. And that was about it.
But your kids kept on working still.
The kids, everybody went to high school and got a high school degree, except Geneva. She was sort of a rebel, and she dropped out of school when she finished the 11th grade and went to work in Fort Smith, Arkansas, in a cafe, I think it was. But Dad insisted that everybody read. He always had a Reader's Digest, a Look magazine, a Life magazine, and a National Geographic. He made sure we had a daily newspaper, and he insisted that everybody go to school as well as work. Dad himself dropped out of school when he was in the 6th grade and went to work in the fields. Well, when he met Mom, she was going to the Cherokee Normal School. She was part Cherokee Indian, and she was going to the Cherokee Normal School, and Dad would go up, see her at lunch, and then when she went back to work, he would go to the library and check out a book. It never was a novel, it was always a textbook. He taught himself algebra, trigonometry, geometry, and who knows what else. World history, he was very up to date on world history. And during the war, we had a Life and a Look magazine, both following the war, in both Germany and Japan. And speaking of that, 6 of my brothers were in the service during World War II.
6
2 of them in Europe, and three of them in Japan, or in the Pacific, and Stanley, who got in 1 week before the war ended, was in basic training. But they all became veterans. My brother Herbert, he was in during the Korean War. Stanley was in during the Korean War. I got a deferment and was in college. But I was drafted after I got out of college and was a member of the Cold War, a member of the Army during the Cold War, subject to being sent to Europe to fight the Russians if that ever happened. So I also became a veteran as a result of that. And one year, our county newspaper printed all 8 pictures on one page of us boys and wrote an article about 8 boys from one family is unusual, but 8 veterans from one family is very unusual.
Yeah. Wow. I knew a bunch of you had. I didn't know how many.
Of the 11 that grew up, everybody graduated from high school except Geneva. 5 of us graduated from college, and my oldest sister taught me when I was in the 5th grade, and I got my Bachelor of Science degree in education 1 year before she got hers. She had been teaching all that time and taking correspondence classes. She eventually got her degree and went on to get her master's. And she was a well-known teacher, and after she retired, every school district in eastern Oklahoma wanted her to fill in for teachers that were out sick or pregnant or whatever. And she kept teaching even after that, and finally said, I've had enough, I've had it, and quit substitute teaching as well.
Yeah. Now, did I hear that some of the brothers were in Pearl Harbor? One of them or more?
Boyce was in Pearl Harbor the day it was bombed. He was in the hospital. He had a bout of flu, I think it was, and his bed was located in Schofield Barracks, and that barracks was strafed by the planes as they came over it. But he wasn't in the barracks at the time it was strafed. He was in the hospital. How close that was to where the planes were, I've no idea. But I do know that he was there when Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Yeah.
Eugene was in the Army already. He was a mechanic. He had studied mechanic, gone to school, and he was in the Pacific War, and he was in charge of keeping buses, jeeps, tanks, and who knows what else, moving in the Pacific War. And in one of the battles, he was about 1.5 miles behind the line of action, and he dropped a wrench on his toe and broke it. And the commander gave him a Purple Heart, and he said, "I wasn't wounded, I dropped a wrench on my toe." The commander said, "You were wounded in the line of battle, so keep the Purple Heart." None of my brothers were killed during the war except Alton. He had just got married. He came home with his new wife. He came back to Oklahoma. He was stationed in California. Her home was out there. He brought his new wife and her sister back to Oklahoma to meet the family. And they hitchhiked rides. They didn't buy a ticket. He was in uniform, and the people would stop and pick him up and take him as far as they went on the road and let him out, then they'd be picked up by somebody else. But that was an unknown how soon he'd be back to the station. So he left early. He left 1 or 2 days early. And he got back, and someone saw him at the PX and said to the commander that Collins was back in town. And he said, "Good, I can use him on tomorrow's flight because of so-and-so who's sick and in the hospital, and he can fill in." That particular plane crashed, and my brother was killed.
My goodness.
All the others came through the war. One of them was Battle Rattle Leighton. He was in the Pacific War, and the kamikaze pilots were attacking his boat, and one was coming right toward him, and a gun from another boat blew it up just 50 yards away from him. It hit him, and he never got over that. He became an alcoholic, but he lived to be 83, but he never ever got over that. He would have nightmares at night, screaming, "Here they come, here they come."
Battle Rattle Leighton, huh?
Yeah, he was. Everybody else, Darwin and Herbert, took GI Bills and went through college. I was going to do that, join the Army, get the GI Bill, and then go to college, but I got the baseball scholarship, and I went to college before I went into the Army. So Darwin and Herbert and Stanley, Leona, and I all became teachers. I taught for 1 year, went into the Army and started teaching war machines to the military. And I did that for 17 years.
So, where did Daddy Ben and Mom Collins come from? Where was their background?
Mom was born in Arkansas, and Dad was born in Missouri. Their families both moved to Indian Territory, into what became the Cherokee Nation, which is the northeastern segment of Oklahoma, and that's where they met, in Tahlequah. And Tahlequah is the capital of the Cherokee Nation. Oklahoma is basically divided into 5 Indian nations, even today, and they have a certain amount of control over their laws and their people.
Do you know how much Cherokee Mom Collins was?
Mom's great-grandmother was full-blood Cherokee. Her grandmother was half-breed. Her mother's quarter. She was an 8th, and I was a 16th.
And
that's how it came down.
My dad would be a 32nd, I would be a 64th.
That's right.
Okay.
One of the difficulties that my mother had was, in her later years, Grandma Collins, Dad's mother, lived with them, and she apparently was extremely mean. I asked Mom one day, and Mom wouldn't say bad about anybody. I asked Mom, what was Grandma James like? Because she was already dead when I was born, or died that year. And she said, oh my. I asked my sister Leona, who was grown up when I was born, I said, did you know Grandma James pretty well? She said, I knew her very well. I said, what was she like? She said, that was the meanest woman I've ever known.
Golly.
And I says to Mom, or to Leona, why in the world did Mom and Dad have her in their home? And she said, because nobody else could handle her except Dad. If Dad told her to shut up, she shut up. But the other boys, their wives wouldn't have her in the house because they couldn't control her, and neither could the boys.
Goodness.
There was a person up near Salina that asked Yo-Yo if he knew Ben Collins. And he said, yes, he's my grandfather. He said, is he the Ben Collins that married Alma James? Yes, she's my grandmother. Did you know that Alma James was named by the Cherokee Council as the chief medical person?
Really?
And he said, no, I didn't know that. And I don't know of anybody that did know it. He asked me, and I said, Mom never told any of us that. Whether she knew it or not, I guess she did. But she never, ever, to my knowledge, told any of the kids.
Did she have any training in medical field, or why was she?
Well, she had graduated from the normal school, and in those days, that was probably equivalent to nowadays about the 9th or 10th grade in high school. And but it was the top grade that they could attend. She got a teaching degree, and she could have taught school, but she met and married Daddy instead, and started having kids right, left, and center. That's what this lady said. Now, how she knew, apparently she had some access to the Cherokee history files. They have quite a large, there in Tahlequah, they have quite a large, I guess you'd call it a history museum of the Cherokee Indians.
Yeah.
Goes all the way back. The Cherokee, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but they're the only North American Indian tribe with a written language.
I know that.
And that was done by one man,
Sequoia,
who was named Sequoia. And he became so famous for that, they named the big trees in California sequoias.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in Oklahoma, the big tribes are Cherokee and the Choctaw. They have the 5 so-called civilized tribes, Cherokee, Choctaw, Seminole Creek, and Chickasaw, making up the whole state of Oklahoma in different Indian nations. And when you drive through Oklahoma now, you'll see a sign entering or leaving Cherokee Nation, entering Choctaw or leaving it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's about all I can tell you about the family.
Good. Thank you.
Mama,
Yeah.
do that. Mama, do that one. Now take a picture. Now take a picture, mister.
Mama, tell Leon to knock it off.
Nice man, Mama. Oh boy, howdy. You've got to be taught a few things.
I'm not a nice man. I'm your baby, Mama.
Mama, he is your bye-oh, baby, bye-oh. Not worth a penny. He not worth a penny. She done many a day's work, hasn't she, Jim? Jim? Myrtle's done many a day's work, hasn't she?
Yeah. Well, those good as his girlfriend.
He said I was his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's what John
Well, we can be friends. Gracious, can't we,
Well,
John?
she don't turn on her. Some people had people about that, and that tells her that's my girlfriend. Well, if I'd known that girl, that lady would stay for years, she damn sure be my friend, because I treat everybody good.
Yeah.
So she'd be my friend, and she's a female, she's a girl, ain't she?
Hey, now.
See?
What?
Are you feeling lots better? George?
Little bit.
Yeah.
I fell and hurt my head.
She's feeling better every day, Mama. Every day she feels better.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. You get her paper to her every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Myrtle, we're gonna get you up in the bed, honey.
It's nice you can come down and visit with Leona.
What?
It's nice that you can come visit with
Got you
Leona.
up there now, didn't you?
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
See what Trammy's got, since she's so far on the side.
I'm proud.
Let's start over there.
Shape, I mean, you better would say it's nice for me to be able to come and see her too.
That's true. You keep banging your head on the floor, you ain't gonna.
No, I'm not going too long if I don't
For
quit it.
some days, that's all you find.
Or one or two more tricks, and I won't be
I
able
can get her enough
to.
bed for too.
It's good to read. It sure is. Good.
She likes it.
We don't know what the problem is. Might be the mind. She might have perfect vision.
Yeah, and she might not have perfect vision too.
Yeah, they carried on for 30 minutes while ago like that.
Well, I didn't know.
She had to feel,
Mama,
You know-
John?
she pole vaulted it out of bed and cracked her head on the corner of this table. She did.
Not.
She's not supposed to do
2 o'clock in the morning, you know.
You know,
Leona, what? If one of your kids done what you told them not to do, what would you do?
I'd turn them over my seat and get the board, and I'd really lay it on them.
Well, you got a board coming then.
Yeah, I would.
I wonder if I can take that thing off of there.
I would. I'd really work them over.
Pretty tree.
Tell them to shut up.
Pretty tree.
You know what they're doing?
What
Well, they're giving me a hard time because I fell this morning and the mornings
That's
before.
what she do is she doesn't want her kids to go to school for 40 years that way. She said, I'd handle them. I said, well, you got one coming.
All my financial moves are right here. One simple pitch.
I want to catch Mama telling Modell to knock it off.
All she has to do is give her a big bite. She'll say, you give me too much. You don't like big bites.
There's Mama's tree and the good fairy fixing it up.
Since we ordered it right, she's not typing.
Christmas fairy. They were tearing it up, I'm not sure which.
Well, whose Christmas
Hey, I
tree
put
is
that on just right, Jenny.
You was raised here, Mom did.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been talking about
The
Saudi
girl's
Arabia. That's
not
what I said.
raised here.
Huh?
It's how many times has she been back home to Oklahoma?
All her life.
What? All of her life?
Yeah.
Well,
8 years.
Come here.
Shake your hand.
Let me
Kiss it.
kiss your
Kiss
little
her hand.
Are you your grandma? Am I your grandma?
Say yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Say mouth great.
You're
Right.
Yeah. And I love you, honey. I love you a lot.
Maybe, Melanie, maybe when they come to see me and get me ready to go down to take my treatment or something like that, or maybe you can help them. You could have helped them a while ago. Guess who helped me get ready to go down there?
Now here's you, looking very sweet.
On the back, see the little gathers and the wide belted waist.
Very nice. I think you better mount chopping down now, you.
No, no.
Oh, da 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 da.